John Morant traded to the Portland Trailblazers. Craziness. Now look, I know I've been away for a while, dealing with some personal issues and whatnot. I know I don't owe anybody an explanation and whatnot. Um, yeah, but it's good to be back. I love talking about this stuff. Realistically, I have nobody to talk to in real life about this stuff. That's why I make these videos at the end of the day. But hey, I'm here. So look, John Morant to the Portland Trailblazers. Let's talk about it. Now, look, him going to the Portland Trailblazers is a big move. I don't really think a lot of people understand this because the Trailblazers were one of the only teams that, like, we obviously expected the Knicks and the Thunder and the Wolves to maybe take a game or two off of the Spurs, because they are, they're a young team, they're inexperienced, and although they're very, very, heavily favored to win the whole thing, they were bound to lose a couple games, right? And those games are going to be to more experienced teams, right? Like, i.e., Wolves, Thunder, Knicks. Now, look, one team that took a game off of the Spurs, although Wemby was there, I think, was the Trailblazers, and a big part of why the Trailblazers had lost, especially when they blew that big lead against the Spurs in Game 7, not Game 7, in Game 6 or whatnot, or sorry, Game 5. God, yeah, I'm getting back into it. Is because they didn't have someone who's uber athletic to maybe stop a Stephon Castle, to stop a Dylan Harper. Obviously Shaden Sharp and Scoot Henderson, they have their own athletic prowess to them, but they don't have that athletic edge that a young player like Scoot Henderson or Stephon Castle or Dylan Harper have. And to get in every single time in the Portland and the San Antonio Spurs series, we always saw them get around them. Maybe that's, get around the screen faster or, beat them to the first step every single time. And now acquiring John Morant, now I'm not going to say acquiring John Morant is going to change their whole defense up and make it seem like they're the greatest defensive team and they're going to beat the Spurs. No way. Right? But at least he'll give him that edge over the couple times that Stephon Castle would, beat Shaden Sharp, to the first step, and it's upsetting because the Portland Trailblazers is a good team. Okay, maybe I'm overhyping them saying they're a good team, but they are a pretty decent team. They're pretty, a solid team who made it to the playoffs. Obviously, that was through the play-in, but all in all, they made it to the playoffs. And, was their competition to the playoffs all too great? No. But they did. And they took a game off of a team that went to the finals. And so I really do like this trade. And, it's John Morant and I believe a pick. I'm recording this as it breaks, but it is John Morant to the Portland Trailblazers for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. So there's no picks involved, nothing. So it doesn't, change up their future and whatnot. It more so makes the Trailblazers' future a lot brighter than Memphis is, because now Memphis' starting lineup is what? It's Ty Jerome at the 1, Cedric Howard at the 2, Jeremy Grant at the 3, and then Chris Murray as a backup 2 and 3, and then it's Cam Boozer at the 4, and then Zach Edey at the 5. That team is, dare I say, buns. And I remember, 2 years ago when the Thunder had won the championship, the Grizzlies, I'm not gonna say they were giving them work because they weren't. They got swept, but there was a game where people were like, "Oh, the Grizzlies figured them out," and right as the Grizzlies figured them out, John Morant got injured. And was that a dirty foul? Maybe, maybe not. But all in all, they didn't do anything. So I think at the end of the day that this favors the Trailblazers a lot more than it does the Grizzlies, because obviously Jeremy Grant's contract is really, really poor. It's deemed as one of the worst contracts, and that was it was maybe right behind the Bradley Beal contract from when he was on the Spurs, traded to traded from the Wizards and whatnot. that obviously was a really poor deal, and maybe the day-to-day Davis trade, deal and whatnot, bad deals all around. And Jeremy Grant's deal, although Jeremy Grant he's a good player still. He has solid defense, maybe not a defensive, he doesn't have lockdown defense, but nor is he a defensive liability. He's a great mid-range shooter. He has great 3-point percentage. I'm not gonna okay, maybe not great, good 3-point percentage. He's not a knockdown shooter by any means, but he's that veteran. He's that veteran presence that you need on a team with all young players, and maybe that's what the Grizzlies are going for, is to have Jeremy Grant to be that veteran presence in the locker room to kind of guide these young players to be who they're going to be one day. And if that's the case, then fair enough. But I don't really see Jeremy Grant being that, because I'm not now. Look, this may be seem like I'm knocking Jeremy Grant. I'm not, but he just doesn't seem like the best, return for John Morant. Now, what could you have gone? John Morant has been, he's been linked to the Raptors. He was linked to the Nuggets for a bit. He was linked to Minnesota to be linked up with Ant, but Ant got LaMelo and whatnot, and I it's horrible that I missed those trades, but it is what it is. All this stuff, John Morant was linked to, and it just was recently that he was linked to the Trailblazers. Well, okay, maybe it wasn't recently, but it only got onto my radar recently. All in all, John Morant to the Trailblazers, everybody was like, "Yeah, that's not really gonna make a wave." Now, I didn't think about it, and I'm not gonna say it's gonna make a huge wave, but I think it's gonna make a little splash, because if it would have been as if the Miami Heat were to have gone maybe a younger Norman Powell and a younger Andrew Wiggins, right? Then they would have made a splash last year, being the 10th seed, going back into the playoffs as they did two seasons previously. And with the Trailblazers, being in the play-in, making to the playoffs as I think a 9 seed, making this move for a John Morant, for a young star who can play alongside Damian Lillard and Drew Holiday, two veteran point guards who he needs to learn from, one for shooting, one for defense, and who knows, maybe he's that star that the Trailblazers are going to go for, who's going to pivot their future towards. That could be a great move. We've all written off, I'm not going to say we've all written off, but a lot of us have written off John Morant and Zion Williamson to be these players who you just can't build a team around. You can have them on your team. They're great. They're really great, and they can be your franchise cornerstone and pivot into the next era. But it just doesn't seem like they were always there for the playoffs, and they were there for a long term. We never expect them to be with the Grizzlies long term, or the Pelicans in Zion's case for a long term. Now Zion hasn't been traded yet, and he probably won't be this offseason because I know the management want to keep him around. But bro, I'm really thinking that this could be a really good trade for the Trailblazers. Like I had said at the start of the video, because like I keep saying, John Morant has that athleticism that can allow them to deal with these younger players. It's not like you're going to put a Drew Holiday on a Stephon Castle. He's going to beat him every single time to the first step. He's going to dunk on his old ass. Get out of here, old man. You're washed. No, I'm kidding. Drew Holiday, please forgive me, because he's not washed. Drew Holiday was was a great player for the Portland Trailblazers last year. It was, I believe, the second half of the season. He had a good stretch on which he shot efficiently from the field. He was great defensively. I don't think he got a triple double, but he definitely dropped 30 points many times. It seemed unfathomable, because he was an old man coming off of from the Celtics, and he was a salary dump, kind of, for Anthony Simons. But all in all, these are two mentors. Damian Lillard coming back from being away from the Bucks, and God, the Bucks still have his books on their books, so they're gonna have to be doing that for a bit. But yeah, Damian Lillard being recovering from his leg injury, I believe it's a hamstring injury. He won the 3-point contest last year. first off, how? I didn't really understand how he did that. He never played, and he never even shot a single 3-pointer the whole year. But he only did, and he won the fucking contest. Pardon my language. Um, but yeah, I keep running in circles saying this is a good trade for the Portland Trailblazers and bad trade for the Memphis Grizzlies. Maybe they're gonna make another move. It's just confusing to me because, like, I'm gonna reiterate myself again. I won't say obviously it's good and bad, whatever. You heard that enough. But like I said, it's a confusing trade because you could have gotten more for John Morant. You could have gotten a pick. And with the new with the new draft stipulations now, any team has a chance to be the number 1 overall pick. You would assume teams would be wanting to pile up draft picks. And obviously, some teams won't want to give up a draft pick for John Morant because how injury prone he is, because how volatile he is off the court. Stick talk. I was listening to that song today. Shout out to Future Hendrix. But all in all, he is, he's still a good player and he can still give you the athleticism, that the scoring that you may need from your older guards that they may not be able to provide. So him going to the Trailblazers and the Grizzlies getting basically sticks and stones, Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. What am I going to rate this? I'm going to give the Grizzlies, on the Grizzlies end, I'm gonna give this a C-. Now, I know I was shitting on it the whole time, but like I said, a C- is very, very, very generous because, we don't even know what they're going to do with Jeremy Grant or Chris Murray. God forbid Chris Murray. Shout out to Keegan Murray, jersey in the back, Sacktown represent. Jeremy Grant could, like I said, be that veteran presence in the locker room, and he can kind of, help these young bucks with their mental. Now for the Trailblazers, I'm gonna give this an A-. I really like this trade. It's gonna give them that uber athleticism that they need. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be really, really, really great. And I'm actually super duper excited to see them next year. I know I didn't I'm excited to see them next year. I know I didn't cover everything with the trade and super deep dive into it, but like I said, I'm just getting back into these videos again. Who knows? I might drop a whole breakdown of what he may add. Finding some really niche website to give me all like the stats and whatnot. But yeah, like I said, I'm just getting back into these videos, and this is definitely not my longest video. It's one of my shortest ones. I usually make 30-minute videos if you like that stuff while you're eating. But yeah, hey man, trade season. It started a bit ago with the Giannis trade, but hey, it's here, and it's here to stay. And I'm so excited. It's the greatest time of the NBA season, other than when my Knicks won the championship. Shout out to Jalen Brunson, my GOAT. Anyways, that's gonna be it. I love every single one of you guys and girls. Love you all. Peace.